This is Survivors of the Shoah. The date is May 26, 1995. Interview is with survivor David Bloch. The interviewer is Hannah Mayer. The sign interpreter is Rick Rubin. The interview is taking place in Mount Vernon, New York, in the United States. The interview will be conducted in English and American Sign Language. This is Survivors of the Shoah Visual History Foundation. The date is May 26, 1995. The survivor we are interviewing is David Bloch. My name, the interviewer, is Hannah Mayer.
And I am the sign language interpreter. My name is Rick Rubin.
The interview is being conducted in Mount Vernon, New York, in the United States of America. The interview will be conducted in English and American Sign Language. Good morning, Mr. Bloch. We're so happy to have you join us. Denny, we're also glad to have you join us. Do you want to introduce yourself before we start the interview?
Sure. My name is Danny Bloch. I'm, of course, David Bloch's son. Definitely was an unusual growing up, having a father as a Holocaust person, I guess you would say. He's had quite a unique life, and we're all very proud of him, of course. And this is an important legacy, I guess, because he is advanced in age. He's 85, so he's not. It's important to get these people's story on film to preserve it for posterity.
How has it affected you personally growing up?
To tell you the truth, as far as the Holocaust, it really hasn't, except that I think I know more than many people do and have some more sensitivity to the subject. But other than that, I'm pretty normal, I guess.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Sure.
And we're going to begin the interview now.
You don't have to really slow down or anything.
Mr. Bloch, please tell me your full name.
My name is David L. Bloch.
And what year were you born?
I was born in 1910. I'm now an old man, 85. But thank God I feel fine.
What was your exact birth date?
The 25th of March.
So you recently had a birthday.
Yes, as a matter of fact. I celebrated my birthday with a big party. A lot of friends, a lot of other deaf people were there too, and we all had a good time. We had Chinese food. It happens that I used to live in China. So.
Where were you born?
I was born in Germany, in Bavaria. But I spent a lot of time in Munich. That's where I went to the school for deaf children. That's where I learned sign language, and that's where I started learning art. I have some work in some museums there. Sorry. I never turned into a big beer drinker. I started drinking beer when I was about 35 years old, even though I lived in Munich for all that time.
What was growing up in Bavaria like?
It was wonderful. I was a happy child. It was a very free feeling to live in Bavaria. I felt no one was really watching me. No one was really putting any limits on me. I felt very free. I could swim. There were beautiful forests there, beautiful landscapes, animals, cows, farmlands. It's quite a beautiful area. I remember that as a nice time in my life. I went to Munich at the age of 5 when I went to the deaf school. I stayed there for a number of years. I learned to read and write and so on. And then later on I went to private school. I remember having wonderful teachers who gave me a broad perspective on life, for which I'm very grateful.
Did your parents also speak sign language?
Oh, I forgot to mention that. My mother died shortly after I was born. Actually, 40 days after I was born. And when I was 1 year old, my father died of a heart condition.
What were your parents' names?
My father's name was Simon. My mother's name was Alma.
And did you have any other brothers and sisters?
Yes, I did. I had 2 sisters and a brother. They've all passed away since. My mother was my father's second marriage, second wife. My family was all very good to me, as I recall. Sorry, I don't understand. I felt that, however, I felt that I'm basically a self-taught man, that I did not have people to teach me when I was growing up, and that I basically had to learn it on my own. And it's more difficult for a deaf person. I think if I had a father and mother to teach me as I was growing up, I could have even gone a lot farther. Thank God I went through life with my eyes open and was able to learn a lot on my own.
Who raised you after your parents passed away?
My grandmother. My mother's mother.
What was her name?
Emilia. And she was a very good person, and I'll never forget her. We were very close.
When you went to Munich to the deaf school, did you live at that school? Did you move away from home?
Yes. That time, let's say 1915, around the beginning of the First World War,
popcorn.
we had very little to eat. We basically survived on popcorn.
No cookie. No
We didn't have fruit. We didn't have cookies. We didn't, we had some dry bread to eat, and that was it. The food provided at school was absolutely terrible. It was so poor, and we were quite hungry.
What were some of the things that you...
That was the First World War.
What were some of the things that you learned in the school for the deaf?
Well, I learned that whatever you would learn in public school, same thing.
Did you have any formal Jewish education?
That's a good question. The school was actually a Catholic school. I may have been the only Jewish boy in that school. But that was the deaf school available at the time, so it was quite different from other students' education.
Did you have A bar mitzvah?
It's kind of odd that a Jewish person would end up in a Catholic school. I remember everyone, had to pray 13 times. Morning, noon, night. It was quite a rigorous religious education that was in that school.
Did you have a bar mitzvah?
Yes, I did. My family did find a teacher to provide me with an education, but it was somewhat primitive. We were so poor, and I wouldn't say that I had a rich Jewish education. It was a different world.
How long did you stay in the school for the deaf?
8 years. 8 years. And I remember at the age of 10 seeing my first swastika. I was 10 years old. I didn't know what it meant. I asked my teacher what the swastika was, what that shape, what that symbol was. I'll never forget that image.
Did you experience any anti-Semitism in school?
People knew that I was Jewish. I had my skin was darker than others. I had olive skin. People would comment on it, certainly, but I was kind of used to that.
What did you do after you left school?
I started working at the age of 15. I was an apprentice. And what I was working in was porcelain. I would paint porcelain, and I went to a trade school for that for 3 years in a city named Salb, and that was in Bavaria. So at around the age of 30, I went to work in a factory making china, and I would design china and paint it. I'm sorry, that was the year 1930, and in the year 1932, I found myself out of work, and I would do my own private artwork at home. I would do my own paintings.
Were you always interested in art, even in the school for the deaf?
Yes, always, always. I always enjoyed it, and I always appreciated art too, of any sort, sculpture, vases, paintings. I loved it all. And in 1933, Hitler started rising to power, and things changed. I realized that Germany was changing. Thank you. And I realized that people started looking at me as a leper.
Looked like me.
That's how I was seen.
At that time, did you?
It was terrible.
Were you living with your family again, or on your own?
I was on my own.
Where was the rest of your family?
Oh, they had gone to various places. Everyone split up. But I knew that I had an uncle in Bavaria. I knew that my mother had 4 brothers that in various places, and I was able to stay in contact with them, and they were good to me. They were working people, you know, but and they were able to provide me with some comforts.
In 1933, did you have any thoughts of leaving Germany? Were you afraid of the rise of Nazism?
Well, I don't think I thought about it that much at the time. Maybe my mind hadn't really been opened. And I was more of a fatalist as well. I thought, you know, who knows what's going to happen to any of us? God will decide in any case.
Did you feel that you had faith in the future, or you had any feelings of what would happen?
Well, really, to tell you the truth, I was a born optimist. You know, I saw good things in the future in general, I think.
And in 1933, when Hitler, you said, rose to power, how did it affect you personally?
Oh, it was terrible. You know, it's hard to describe, but I felt somewhat helpless. You know, there was a lot of oppression.
Did you lose a job?
Yes, and I went into school. Even though I was Jewish, I was allowed to get into the academy.
For what?
And that was where I studied art and painting
What was it
and
called?
calligraphy. That was called the Academy of Applied Art.
And this was in Bavaria?
No, in Munich. A very good school.
And how did it affect your studies?
I mean, but everything was Heil Hitler at that time. Everyone, you know, was getting very gung-ho. And so that's all you saw. You saw that salute everywhere you went.
And how did it affect your studies?
Well, it wasn't, the power, you know, wasn't that forceful at the time, so I don't know if it affected my studies directly. But I never really did become very friendly with the other students. You know, my professor, I had one very good professor, and although, you know, he was a Nazi, he was a good teacher, but he would call me Four Eyes, he would insult students, but he did join the Nazis, and there were many different classes, different situations.
Window.
And what I ended up doing was working in doing window treatments. Until the business that I was working in was forced to sell its business.
Was your reaction
At that time, this was 1938. And that was an important time. I lost my job, and I went to Munich, to this academy. I signed up, I paid my money. 8 days later was the famous Kristallnacht.
Let's go back a little before 1938. You were working in Bavaria in 1933?
Yes, in Bavaria.
And you didn't go to the academy until 1938?
In 34 to 36.
And was the reaction to the anti-Semitism that you experienced more passive and you just accepted it, or did you try to stand up for yourself?
I didn't stand up for myself. I did feel that I had to accept it. If you reacted against it, things would only go worse for you.
At that point, did you think of leaving for America or for anywhere else?
I didn't know where to go at that time. And also, I wanted to go to Israel. My sister was there in Israel. My brother had come to New York. But this is around 1938, I believe. I'm talking right before Kristallnacht. And in 1938 was when they were starting to throw people in the camps.
Now, was the Jewish community in general in Bavaria and in Munich prepared to leave, or were they also not accepting what was going to be?
There was no way to go against the Nazis. I mean, maybe in America it was more reaction, but I think. But the German mentality is more. You have to listen to those in power. I don't know. I think that was the national character in a way. You couldn't talk back. That was just what we learned. That's what we were taught.
In 1938, when you came to the academy,
no, 1938 was when I was taken to the camp. That's when I was interned in the camp.
what led to your being taken to the camp?
The Nazis were highly organized. They knew names. They knew who was Jewish. They had lists. So it was no problem for them to get to me. And every time you moved anywhere, you would have to contact the police to let them know. So they really had a very clear system, and they knew who was who.
Did they take you out of school?
No, from my home.
On Kristallnacht?
No, the next day. And they were extremely prepared. They had it all ready. They knew us from A to Z.
Did Kristallnacht affect you in your house?
Well, it was the day after Kristallnacht. And
Was anything broken in your house on the night of Kristallnacht?
No. I saw places that were wrecked and destroyed. But my place did not suffer that much damage.
When the
It was bad. It was bad, though.
when the
Quite
Nazis came the day after Kristallnacht, where did they tell you that you were going?
They didn't say a thing. They just said, "Come with us." They don't tell you a thing.
Were you allowed to take belongings?
No, no, not at all.
And did you go with anyone else from the community?
They gathered up a number of people from the community. I was the only person who was deaf, although I was able to speak German and lip read.
Did you know the people in the community? Did you recognize them?
Yes, yes. And I was very surprised. Yes, I did recognize people.
Was it people only from Munich?
No, they were from all over.
And how were you
Bavaria.
transported?
In a large, vehicle. I mean, it wasn't an airplane or anything. They took us by car
And where did they take you?
to Dachau, which was the first camp, I believe.
How many days did it take you to get there?
Oh, we arrived the first day. And I have a painting of it here. Mm-hmm.
And when you got there, what did they do? What did the Nazis do?
Well, we marched and marched. They made us march endlessly. So they were ready the first day that we got there, got us into marching formation, even though it was raining, even though we didn't have proper clothing and our teeth were chattering. They had us marching and marching.
Was
Really
there a
terrible.
selection at any point?
Sorry, I don't understand.
Was there a selection at any point?
Select for what? Selection. What are you referring
Did
to?
Did they want to kill people right away?
At that time, no. That happened afterwards.
Now,
No.
what barrack were you in?
I mean, they would. They certainly did. They certainly would. But that would happen. That would happen later. Yeah, not until quite a bit after that time.
What barrack were you in?
I could show you in a picture.
Did you receive a number at Dachau?
Yes, I did.
What was your number?
31096.